Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. We knew this day is going to come. ये दिन आने वाला है जब पाकिस्तान को somebody is going to give Pakistan some money, and Pakistan has been lucky enough of actually getting more than what it was trying to dream of. I'm sorry for that noise at the back. My dog goes a little upset sometimes. My apologies. Now, Pakistan basically is in a pretty bad situation. We all know that. And they've been trying to fight for this particular IMF bailout for a long time. And one thing that we know is that suddenly Pakistan puts out a news on the day when the IMF bailout was supposed to expire, which is today, that mil gaya bhai, mil gaya, mil gaya, mil gaya, mil gaya. We got it, we got it, we got it. So you can imagine the country was standing on the brink, literal brink, and that's not news to all of us. Now let's get into what I've collected for you guys. Of course, this is not going to be a long show. This is just going to be a short update. But I thought, let me just put this out there as a first reaction to Pakistan getting some money from the IMF. We need to look at this little more dispassionately that we would like to, and understand the larger geopolitical connection with regards the West, with regards China, with regards what's happening with us, and of course, where is Pakistan headed? So before I do, guys, all of you, please, my request is like this video, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon. Most importantly, that is very critical so that you get the notifications. There's going to be, by the way, there's a show tonight as well at about 10 o'clock where we will discuss how the Indian Air Force needs to get boosted up with the recent Indo-US defense deals. What do we need to do? That's going to be there with Air Marshal Bedi. So please join me for that. That's going to be an interesting show. But for now, let's get into Pakistan. Pakistan gets money. So this is a small cartoon I found, which is, when I was doing the research, it's an interesting cartoon where the, pretty much what happens to people in custody in Pakistan, and this is something which will actually depict what is going to happen to the people of Pakistan going forward. Of course, the IMF has come as a big relief, but please understand, IMF comes with a lot of strings attached. It is not going to be an easy road for Pakistan just to take up paisa mil gaya, aap chalte hain. One of the things that they will still try to do that, and a lot of people joke around कि भाई लंदन दुबई में अभी प्रॉपर्टी प्राइसेस बढ़ जाएंगी, जरा इस पे थोड़ा नजर रखना. So that's the joke which is there. Of course, some amount of money will be stolen. There is no question about it. But this is exactly what is going to happen to the people. And I know a lot of people from Pakistan do watch me. Please understand, I'm not saying this with any jokes, but this is the reality. This is the hypocrisy of Pakistan. The current, what do you call, the finance minister, Ishaq Dar, today he's praising God, praising Allah for getting the IMF deal, and it's an important thing for them. And on 24th November 2021, the same guy, what a shameful surrender of Imran Khan Niazi government to the IMF. Oh. Now here is a guy who was told by the IMF, you stay out. Okay, during the meetings and stuff like that, he was told, no, you stay out. Shahbaz Sharif literally handholded this entire process because the IMF guys did not want to deal with this gentleman because of his antics. As a matter of fact, one time he had told the IMF, you're not my colonizers and this and that. We will not listen to you and we will not do this and that and the other. So he's quite a loud mouth. One of the things that we need to understand. Now, Pakistan clinches an IMF bailout hours before the deadline. As I was saying, the deadline just was there, and Pakistan got the bailout right there. पैसे नहीं आए. By the way, this is a staff level agreement. Staff level agreement means it will go to the next step, which is the board. More or less, they'll clear it. We'll have to look at the geopolitics that will open out. Remember, the last time Pakistanis got money, they fixed their F-16s. That was their number one priority. Remember when they were selling arms to Ukraine? We'll talk about that as we go forward. Pakistan is also qualified, by the way, for the United Kingdom's new preferential trade scheme, which allows Islamabad to avail duty-free exports. I wonder what do they export, but in any case, UK guys, the British really love Pakistani things. So congratulations to both the countries for actually getting through this particular deal and making sure that the British and the Pakistani love that has been there for such a long time stays alive. right now on June 19th. This is recently, so I culled this out and I thought we'll bring it out in some other forum, but this is the perfect place to bring it out when this preferential trade agreement was achieved. Now I wonder what the Britishers are really wanting from Pakistan apart from the shells and some ammunition that they would be wanting to sell to Ukraine. This is interesting. That tells you there is a Western angle behind this whole game of Pakistan getting some money. बट यार तरस भी आ सकता है, ऐसी बात नहीं है. द वेस्टर्नर्स वुड हैव सेड यार ये तो फंसने वाले हैं. एंड वन ऑफ द थिंग्स you need to understand that there is going to be a sort of a very very interesting game that will open out in the next couple of days, because remember this, Pakistan needs to be kept under leash. So for all the countries that have helped Pakistan getting this money will demand a pound of flesh going forward. So guys, the story, as I said, is not over. Now, a lot of reforms, a lot of language written here. Yeah, I won't cover all of it. I'm sure this is the deal. This is the Reuters report that I've picked up, so it's available for all of you to read. Power sector will have to have major, tariff increases. I believe they were talking about some $11 a liter or something like that increase already, which is staggeringly high right now. Pakistan Central Bank needs to, withdraw import restrictions. Bhaiya, open your market. Now, open your market means, understand one thing, Pakistanis don't produce as it is themselves. And if they open their market and actually have a lot of goods dumped in their market, which they will have to pay for in terms of dollars, that's going to be pretty bad. Now, the IMF does this because it needs your economy. Dekho yaar, IMF it's a helping organization, all right, but it is also a predatory organization. It is associated with a whole lot of little back-ending organizations which control the financial market of the world. So they would want that to happen. And why are they telling the Pakistanis to open their markets? Is to, to get some economic growth. Now, I wonder how that will happen when Pakistani industry inside Pakistan is going to get completely banned if cheaper alternatives of Pakistani needs would be available in the market. So that's a very interesting thing. But understand, every country that goes through the IMF goes through this particular thing, and so did we were a bit smarter, so we came out of it. Pakistan, of course, we all know is going to have a challenge. Of course, you also know that Pakistan's rupee is now what, $300 to a dollar. It came down to some 285 recently. It keeps jumping around here and there and stuff like that. The IMF is saying, bhaiya, aisa hai, you can't be pegging the dollar anymore. You can't control the rate. Now, if that happens, the dollar opens up. My God, this is going to go straight up. So this is another very interesting thing that the IMF is actually telling them to do. One of the things they're also saying is that you need to, reduce inflation. Now, how do they reduce inflation? By increasing the what do you call interest rates. When they increase interest rates, what happens? The banks come under pressure. As it is, whatever 2-3 banks that Pakistan has will come under pressure, because the margin of the banks, as what we are seeing in the US, will reduce. Now, I don't know if this is a recipe for disaster or this is a recipe for, helping Pakistan, because the 2-3 points that I can actually see in terms of the reforms will put Pakistan into more trouble than they are in currently. Now they're also saying, by shelve your state-owned enterprises, your losses are too much, just push them out. We know that they were trying to sell the airline, some other asset here, there, and the other. I wonder, somebody should actually make a map of Pakistan and actually show what Pakistan owns today. That'll be interesting to see. So anybody watching or anybody is going to be watching in the future, please try and help me out by creating this particular map. It'll be a great discussion to have, to understand what does Pakistan actually own inside Pakistan. Now, Pakistan is the IMF is also saying, भाई पाकिस्तान साहब एक काम करो, you please go to your other helpers जो तुम्हारे बाप दादा हैं उनके पास जाओ, please get the money from them. This is just, वो एक बोलते हैं ना, हाँ ठीक है, approved. Now you need to raise more money. So Shehbaz Sharif's international trips will be, going on. I'm sure he's going to be happy by, running around all over the world trying to ask for money, wearing his suits and this and that. That is going to happen quite more now, because they will have to raise the money. Why? I will tell you, going forward. Of course, China, they will go back to and say, "Saab, roll over kar do." So what will happen is China will say, "Acha, theek hai, you give me that $1 billion here, I'll give you $1 billion back." And the Chinese literally take that money and then give it back. They just don't roll it over. Chinese don't roll it over. Last time also, what happened? Pakistan had to pay China. They sent that $1.25 billion to China that they had to pay, and the Chinese gave them back $1 billion. So they still lost about, you know, this is how this whole system is working today. Now, one of the most important thing that the Pakistanis need to realize is that they've got external payment obligations. Some people say it's about $22 billion which they need to pay within the financial year of 2024, which is next year. But currently, what do they need to pay by the end of June is something that I will tell you as we go forward. One of the things we need to understand about this particular game is the IMF now is going to be focusing pretty hard on Pakistan. Now, what has the Pakistanis been doing all this while? They've had these 22 sort of bailouts. So they would go, "Ha, sir, we will, yes, sir, we are, yes, sir, we don't worry, sir, we will take care, sir. Sign here, sign there." They will do all that stuff. They will come, they will follow it for 6 months, they will do all sorts of things, and they will actually, take them, sort it out. सब कुछ ठीक है. By the time it reaches the third tranche, and it's divided into various tranches, then it is a matter of their izzat. Oh, IMF कैसे हमको ये बोल रहा है, IMF कैसे हमको ये ऑर्डर दे सकता है, हम IMF के गुलाम नहीं है. I'm sure you've all heard these dialogues before. So what happens is Pakistanis basically back off after the third tranche, and this is what actually happened before. Now they've gone, begged, pleaded, and got whatever they got. How much of it is actually usable is something that we'll have to see, because Shehbaz Sharif's foreign trips, as I said, are not stopping. Is this money given to the Pakistanis to conduct their election? That's just a thought that popped into my head, because the West keeps talking about, yaar, kara lo yaar, jo bhi fake election hai, get it done. Get your election going, because we can't help a country that is in such a chaos. And this is something which is coming out with regards all sorts of statements that are coming out of the West with regards to democracy. You know how it is. Uh, so they've been basically pushing the Pakistanis, yeah, you get the elections done. To my mind, these Pakistanis would have gone and said, यार देखो यार, पैसे नहीं है साहब, मेरे को देना है आगे, मेरे पास इतने पैसे हैं, आई डोंट इवन हैव मनी टू डू द इलेक्शन, आप बोलते हो इलेक्शन कराओ, मैं कहां से कराऊं? तो वेस्ट उठा, चल ठीक है, थोड़े पकड़ तू, इलेक्शन करा दे. You never know. So let's see. Let's see going forward. Now, what about the army? A lot of people, and a lot of the when the Sri Lankan bailout happened, the IMF told the Sri Lankans very clearly, listen, uh, you know, you need to reduce the budget of the defense forces, and I believe it was reduced by about 30%. And now, if that is the formula to follow for a country like Sri Lanka, why not Pakistan? That is something I think General Narayanan had very clearly brought out in one of the shows that we were doing a couple of weeks ago, when he said that, yeah, this has to happen. And I tend to agree with him literally 100% that this has to happen. Of course, the Pakistanis are not going to come out, and that would have been one of the hidden deals. यार भाई ऐसा है, इसका प्रेस रिलीज मत निकालना, हम बजट थोड़ा काट कूट देते हैं, that is something that we'll come to know going forward, but इसका प्रेस रिलीज मत निकालना यार, बहुत जूते पड़ेंगे. Having said that, we need to also look at the factor that the army is in a bit of a turmoil right now, which we discussed with General Dushan Singh the other day. There is a bit of a challenge right there. Now, if the army is under a bit of a turmoil and its budget gets cut, that's going to be an interesting Pakistan going forward. Will they be using the ISI drug money funds to actually fund their army going forward? Will they also become part and parcel of the ISI drug setup? Is something that we'll have to see going forward. But at the moment, there are no particular hints on the army. Asim Munir seems to have escaped the big one as of today. My friend China. Now, China is interesting. Recently announced that it will be temporarily closing its consulates. Bhai, hum to ja rahe, when Imran Khan chakkar happened, they said, bhai, we can't take this nonsense, we are going. Of course, there's been a lot of attacks on the Chinese, and recently, I think about 2-3 days ago, one girl from Balochistan, from the BLA, attacked, and that is something which is unnerving the Chinese, because BLA, the Balochistan Liberation Army, is not known for its suicide attacks. Now, this is a new phenomenon which has started up because the BLA has literally, gut jod, jo bolte hain na, gut jod ho gaya hai uska with TTP. Now TTP BLA have kind of synced up. There is cross training happening, and the BLA guys have learned this particular tactic of harassment of the Pakistani establishment and the Pakistani army. Now recently, when the Chinese foreign minister was in Pakistan and Billo Rani was standing next to him, the Chinese foreign minister had to actually tell him, "देख भाई ये सब कचरा क्या कर रहे हो यार? But please clean up your house." Now, one thing about the Chinese is they'll interfere in your personal affairs, but they don't put it out in the public. You will not have senior Chinese ministers making comments like the Americans do. We are upset with this, we are upset. Barack Obama, by the way. The Chinese don't do that. This was probably one of the first times when the Chinese laid it out towards the Pakistanis that, listen, we need you to clear this nonsense. And Chinese foreign ministry statement sometime last November had said that Xi Jinping himself was expressing great concern about the safety of Chinese nationals in Pakistan. And we know, as a matter of fact, one of these Pakistanis had gone to China. He got a mouthful from Xi Jinping as well. Now, why isn't China helping Pakistan? Well, China kahan se help karega yaar? A beggar can't help a beggar. Remember, this Chinese are suffering themselves today. We've covered it in a very detailed fashion, and I'm going to go into much more depth going forward with regards to what's happening with the Chinese economy. And they are suffering themselves. They cannot afford to actually throw money into Pakistan the way they would have thought they could, right? Or the way the Pakistanis thought they could. One of the things the Chinese are a bit upset is also about, the Pakistanis ditching the whole Iron Brotherhood and supplying arms to Ukraine. The Chinese were like, yaar, ye kya hai? एक तरफ you take arms from Ukraine, दूसरी तरफ you're buying Russian oil, that too from India. What are you guys doing? The Chinese don't take all these things very lightly. Now, people in China, okay, now here is the interesting thing. On Baidu, right, which is their Chinese version of Twitter, have said that the Iron Brother relationship Pakistan is, if it's as strong is perceived, why Baiti is no longer iron. Now, what does that mean? Baiti roughly translates to iron brother. So, what they are asking is, listen, if this relationship is so good, then why isn't the iron brother, iron brotherhood like iron? Why do we have these cracks? Why are the Pakistanis killing our citizens? Why are the Pakistanis attacking our citizens? At the end of it, Balochis are all currently Pakistanis. So the Chinese look at that and say, यार ये क्या है? हमारी गवर्नमेंट हमको बोलती रहती है भाई ये तो iron brothers and this and that, and these guys are very killing our citizens. So they don't take that very, very lightly. Now, this is very, very interesting. But the next point is that stability is required, right? So I discussed with General Dushyant Singh the other day, is Pakistani army so weak that they can't even really pick up this monkey, Imran Khan? जाके उठाओ यार उसको. You want to arrest him, pick him up. But they're not doing that. Why are they not doing that? 3-4 more reasons. One, they're scared, protest, this, that, and the other. Second, Imran Khan obviously has some trump cards that he can throw out at the armed forces and embarrass them in front of the world. And most importantly, they would be getting pressure from the IMF and the West that, listen, we don't want chaos in your country. So please, you want to do all this nonsense to 3-4 of your, 100, 200, 300 of your citizens, army court, this, that, ye, wo. You please lay off Imran Khan if you need the money. And this is something which I can't prove it, but I'm getting to kind of firmly believe that this is what the Western powers are telling the Pakistanis, that, listen, leave that guy be, get your elections done. After that, you figure out what you need to do, because we cannot be seen supporting a authoritarian sort of a regime. Remember, the West today is fighting for what? Freedom and democracy in Ukraine. So they can't have that, as a perception. They're letting go of their Saudi relationship because they don't like MBS, because he's like a authoritarian ruler and this and that and all that stuff. So, and if you remember, Joe Biden recently called someone in China, namely Xi Jinping, a dictator. So they can't be seen doing that. So they're like telling, hey, listen, calm down. You just, don't put this guy under bars and don't really hang him and all that stuff. We're not going to give you money. So one of the things is very important. Imran Khan has now become the center in terms of the Pakistani economy. And that's something I am kind of teetering towards believing going forward. Some interesting stuff. Pakistan needs to pay $77 billion in external debt in the next 2 years. This financial year and the next. $77 billion. Now, obviously, they're not going to pay all of it. Some of it is going to get rolled over, some this, some that. But this is what they have to do. Now, in an interview with Bloomberg, a Fitch rating official said Pakistan will have to pay, listen to this carefully, $3.7 billion by June 2023. I believe we are on the 30th June 2023. So Pakistan basically by the end of the day today needs to pay $3.7 billion to its debtors. Now, one of the things that we need to understand, Pakistanis had what, about $4 billion in their bank. They would have done some tigidam, $4.2 billion in the bank. If you pay this, you're left with 500 million. You're close to a bankrupt scenario. And this might be the thing that could have kind of turned the tables with regards to the IMF, where they have been a little lenient with Pakistan because of this particular big, huge outflow that the Pakistanis need to do. Now, of course, when we look at 3.7, we say, yeah, we just bought drones for that much right now. $3.1 billion. What is that? But remember, for Pakistan is a lot. There is also another news coming out that the refugees from Afghanistan, this is the UN refugee agency. So the West, when it does stuff, it will put out, "Oi, UN, ek report dal yaar, some Afghanis are going into Pakistan. Oi, tu ye kar, you do that." So that one narrative is built up that, yeah, this is why we are helping Pakistan. We're not helping Pakistan because we like them. We need to, because otherwise there's so many Afghanis which are going there. We need to feed them humanitarian causes for freedom and democracy. So that is going to be the sentiment or the narrative that will come out of the Western media in the next couple of days. You'll find this coming across in the next few days, starting Monday, that Pakistan needed to be helped in order for the US to support its interests within the region, or in order for the West or the world to support its interests in the region and help stabilize the area of Afghanistan, the AFPAC sort of a region. This is something that you will find all the Michael Kugelmans of the world and many other writers that we all know will start putting this out in Foreign Affairs, in The Hill, in National Conservative, and so on and so forth. So you'll see this narrative building out in the next some time. Now, people aren't happy. Okay? People aren't happy. You see Twitter, people are pissed off. They're saying, yeah, you guys came and said, we will not do this, we will not. Now you're selling our country. They know the UAE deal for Karachi, which has recently happened. So they're saying you're selling our country. This is very, very important that we need to understand that people aren't happy. In spite of the fact that they've got money, they're not happy. Now, the point that the people are saying, yeah, when Imran Khan was in power, you guys used to curse him because he went to the IMF. Now you guys are in power and you're going back to the IMF. What is the point? So this is you guys are selling us. So this is the narrative that the Imran Khan party is also harping on, and a lot of the central kind of voices that have started to follow in Pakistan also saying this. Yeah, this will not help us. The rules are very predatory. We will not be able to survive this. Let's not, itna nahi karna chahiye. We should renegotiate this, that all those voices also coming out. Now, Saudi Arabia told Pakistan, listen, yaar, aisa hai. Thank you, congratulations, you got your IMF, but ek kaam kar, $50 million jara yahan bhej de, otherwise I'm not going to send my, the Hajj flights. And this is the time of Eid. They call it the Muslim brothers and this and that. You can't have a bigger insult than that. The day they get this money, the Saudis put out a thing in the morning saying, bhai, aisa hai, you bloody pay my money first. So you can imagine they're out for blood. The $3 billion that the Pakistanis are going to get is going to go push. Some amount corruption. Shahbaz Sharif will buy a new suit probably. But most of it is going to go here. So the Pakistanis can power Bhangra and do all sorts of things. They're not going to get one single pie out of it. Now, this is important. As I was telling you, the Pakistanis, by the time they used to reach the third tranche, they would back away and they would say, oh, yeah, pride of the Pakistanis would come out and they would become Pathans and this and that. All sorts of dialogues will be marred. Because see, understand one thing, this thing, whatever they're trying to get into, is requires real reform. It requires real effort. It requires real commitment. It requires the army to be cut down. It requires their stupid, frivolous expenses all around the place to be cut down. For example, now the entire leadership is gone for Hajj, and each one of them, by the way, is flying in his own aircraft, staying in a seven-star hotel. This is the problem with these guys. So it requires a real effort, which nobody has been able to do till now. Even the army, who's supposed to be so-called the ruler of Pakistan, and I wonder how smart this army is, because if Pakistan actually corrects itself, this silly army will get more money for itself for it to eat. Now, who will explain this to somebody in the Pakistani army that by improve yourself so that you can get more money, that you can, do sideline here and there, buy more DHA plots and this and that? No thought process. That's the whole thing. It requires a real effort, which the Pakistanis evidently don't have. So, my question is to the IMF and the West, is that our promises meant to be broken? Are you banking on the fact that the Pakistanis will break their promise? Because, again, I'll get you back to the conversation I had with General Narayanan, that the final solution of Pakistan is nearby. This tells us that the final solution of Pakistan and that timeline that somebody is set for that has not yet arrived. It is close, it's going to happen, but it's not yet here right now. They want the Pakistanis to kind of linger on for some time. Now, why? The China factor, now, this is a hypothesis. Let me say this is a hypothesis. It may be a wild possible rumor, not a rumor, it may be a wild possible thought. But, when you talk about Pakistan and China, I'd like to consider everything. Is the West now inducing Pakistan that, listen, you dump China, I'll give you money? Let me make some base somewhere in the north, somewhere, and this and that. This is something that General Ryan also had spoken about on Sunday. So I'm picking that up from there. Why is the West helping Pakistan to create another bulwark against China and make sure there is a public failure of a Chinese project, which is supposed to be like the most important one? It's also the India factor. Ki bhai, you need to keep Pakistan alive so that India can be troubled. And that's something that we know. I'm not putting out some great analysis right here. But the China thing is something that I want to think about and I want to see going forward, because if the West now pushes Pakistan to deal away from the CPEC and no other project needs to be signed and this and that, you will come to know that this is the actual narrative and this is the actual game that the West is playing towards Pakistan. Now, importantly, UK is the caretaker. ठीक है, ये we must understand. UK is the caretaker. You know, UK is the Bap Dada of Pakistan. And let me say that I'm sorry, I don't like to use such words, but that's the thing. That's the bottom line at the end of it. You saw where the army chief had gone some time ago. Salute, and all that. You saw whose army chief had come to Pakistan some time ago. Salute, and all that stuff. It was the UK. Now, UK is the caretaker of Pakistan. So, of course, a lot of patti would have laga, yaar, de do yaar, thoda sa mera bacha mar jayega wahan par. Okay, so that's something that we need to very clearly understand. The UK has a large Pakistani lobby, which is, of course, our favorite Khalistanis and a whole lot of people that are there that are driving this pressure within the UK as well. Now, Pakistanis put out a budget where they said, yeah, we will increase the defense budget by what, 13% or something like that. IMF told them, yeah, listen, aisa hai, you have to revise your budget. And that's there in the official IMF readout, by the way. Revise means what? Targeted at what? Is it going to be only public expenditure in terms of increasing petrol prices, electricity prices, gas prices, and so on and so forth? Or is the army going to get hit? So I asked a question some time ago that, is there anything about the army win this game? This is something we need to understand going forward, that if we find that this budget has been reworked, and Pakistanis are little silly, they keep talking, thoda jada bolte hain. this will also come out. So guys, my point of doing this video is to put out a sort of a watch list, है कि नहीं? We should all have a watch list कि यार अगर ये हो रहा है, let's get back to dev talks and say यार you said this, ये हो रहा है अभी, now let's watch this further. Let's put out a watch list and say यार these are things we need to watch in Pakistan in the next couple of days, where we will actually come to know the actual story of this particular bailout. Now in other countries like India, the choice is between guns and butter, right? Do you buy guns or do you buy food for your people? In Pakistan, it's between the survival and guns, right? That's it. There's no butter. It's survival and guns. So the guns they're buying, we know they bought some Chinese stuff here, Turkish stuff there, and this and that. So that they're going to buy. There's no butter for any money. Now, how do they justify that? They justify that by putting out this TTP threat. Now, I'm tending to believe, is this threat and the pitai that the Pakistanis are so-called claiming to actually get, how far of it is a narrative? I'm not saying it's not real. Pakistani soldiers are dying. But with the amount of Pakistani soldiers getting killed every day, you don't see the public and the families of the soldiers and this and that coming out and saying anything. Because these guys are literally getting massacred in their areas in some of these operations. So how much of this narrative of the TTP is actually real? Because if you look at what the Taliban says, yeah, it's not, theek hai, thoda bahut, yes, I know, we've relocated, we've done this, we've done that. It's not that much. So are the Pakistani army increasing the TTP threat so that they can actually keep themselves relevant or not? I can't say, but this is the thought that popped into my head. Why did this thought pop into my head? Because that's the only way that the Pakistani army would be able to convince the IMF to keep its budget there. कि भाई देखो हमारे बंदे मार रहे हैं यार, हमको चाहिए. ये देखो इमरान खान ये कर रहा है, हमको चाहिए. May 9th, ये देखो हिंदुस्तान ये कर रहा है. So some time ago, if you remember, when we killed some of these PPA, I don't even know their name, and I don't even want to know the terrorist organization name, because I know our armed forces are going to make sure it doesn't exist in some time. That PAFF, PAPF, or whatever that silly name that they've got, a lot of the chaps got killed. And the narrative from the Pakistani army was, where they actually issued a, called the ambassador or whoever from the High Commission in India and said, ye kya ho raha hai, and all that nonsense. And they also put out a statement that, the Indian army used unprovoked firing to fire across the border and kill innocent villagers in that area. So that narrative was being built. And I think that's one of the biggest narratives, along with the factor that the Pakistanis literally didn't have anything to give in terms of their debtors. So they would have gone and said, bhai, aisa hai, TTP मार रहा है, हिंदुस्तानी मार रहे हैं, पैसे है नहीं मेरे पास, न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स, भाई देख लो अभी तुम्हारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. So as I said, the final solution time has not come. So पैसा वैसा इनको मिल गया है. Promises made by Shahbaz Sharif, elections, ये वो सब कुछ करेंगे, we will do, sir, yes sir, we will, sir, we will do everything and this and that. And this was it. This is it. This is for the June payments. $3 billion come, $3.7 billion go out. How much of it gets rolled over? $1 billion here and there. They will have still some things to pay. For example, the Hajj flights and this and that and a whole lot of other things. And of course, Nawaz Sharif would want to buy a new suit. So some money will go there as well. How much of it is left? Peanuts. So, closing, before I get into your comments, one of the biggest things, again, I said, guys, this video is to ensure that we create a watch list to watch out for what's going to happen in Pakistan in the next couple of days. When we see Pakistan and the news going in a particular direction that I've actually told you in terms of the West, in terms of the Chinese, in terms of TTP, or in terms of any small little angle coming out from Ukraine or something like that, we will know why the West actually helped Pakistan. One thing I can tell you, the Americans have no love lost for Pakistanis. They all just want, theek hai, tum election karao, just survive. We don't want, because we're busy with Ukraine right now. We can't deal with you right now. So they put them on the back burner, right? So-called entire thing that Shahbaz Sharif had said that he will improve his relations, has been no phone calls again with the West. Nothing. So there's been a cold shoulder. So let's be very, very clear as to the hints that are going to come out from Pakistan in the next some time and watch them very closely. Let's get into your comments. Before I do, guys, like the video, subscribe, bell icon. You can help out the Dev Talks efforts by scanning the QR code right here to contribute directly to me, or you can send a super sticker or super chat. And please, if you want to, you can also become a member of Dev Talks. Let's see the first one. Rabi, thank you so much for your contribution and your super sticker. Okay, I think you've given a comment below that. I'm disappointed that the IMF didn't exclude the army from the bailout. See, that's what I'm saying, Ravi. I don't know whether the Pakistanis have told them, यार ये मत बोलना भाई बहुत पिटाई होगी घर में. ठीक है, understand that also. The IMF said, ठीक है, fair enough. We not put this out, but this is what we want to see in your budget revision. That's why they're enforcing the Pakistanis, and there's a public comment by the IMF saying that we expect you to revise your budget. So that's interesting. Let's see. Naveen, nice to see you back, man. You've been out for a long time, yeah. How does Pakistan look at China? Seems like they are still singing praises, contrary to evidence. Coal plants, high interest rates, debts. See, Pakistan is going to be a trial base for the Chinese in terms of anything new that they start up. They've got some plant or something like that they've started up in Pakistan. They will do all that stuff. Remember one thing, Pakistan real estate is still there. So the Chinese would want to take over a certain amount of the real estate. Of course, Chinese live in a dreamland, but that's going to be there. But let me tell you this. The realization, I'm sorry, amongst the Pakistani people with regards to the behavior of the Chinese and how the Chinese actually are taking advantage of Pakistan and how they've kind of, dealt with the Pakistanis and what all happens with them is now quite common. It is open and people know about it. So it's not something that is spoken in hush hush circles, which was the case till some time ago. You can thank Imran Khan, by the way, for that, who created that inquiry on the Chinese. But the Pakistanis don't believe that the Chinese are so close anymore. So okay, so a lot of things that they say, "Ha, mara dost, ye TV shivi," they will all say all that stuff. But the reality is a bit different. Rabit, you again say Pakistan industry is not going to recover. Cotton industries are the way out, but the security environment isn't conducive for that. Bro, there is no way that the Pakistanis can actually look at recovering. As I said, it is guns and survival. There is no recovery which is going to happen with this stuff. And that is something I'm very, very clear. IMF condition also includes no postponement of elections. So Dubai was hot with Nawaz and Zardari gang with the army. As I said, ek individual flights, 7-star hotels, 7, 8 cars, and this and that, and all sorts of stuff is happening there. Now, supposedly, I had broken this when the other day when we were doing a show with Jalan Dushan, that Nawaz Sharif is supposed to be coming back on the 14th of August, the so-called Creators Day of Pakistan. By the way, I want to request all of you guys, Pakistan never became independent. So it's going to be called Creation Day of Pakistan, right? We should not say Independence Day. It should be Creation Day of Pakistan. Independence is ours. It was India, not Pakistan. Right, let's see. Okay, let's go forward. Sucharita ji, you say, Adi ji, every penny will go back to the US, UK, US, or Canada. 3 billion. Bajwa alone retired with 12 billion. Yeah, $3 billion, 12 billion rupees, ma'am. So, वो थोड़ा सा उसमें difference है. But you're right, a lot of it would be tried to be removed. अब now, the outflow is so much that वो करना भी थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट होगा बट यार ठीक है थोड़ा बहुत they will obviously do. And one thing I'll tell you about the Pakistanis, they are very resilient to this. So they say, yeah, Shehbaz Sharif and these guys are super corrupt. Imran Khan is also corrupt, but he's not that corrupt. So we like him more than we like them. God's own logic, but uh, Raghuram, you say, looking at your narration, I can confidently say that Pakistan has again done an emotional blackmail of the US by putting proverbial nuclear gun at its own temple. I don't know if they went that far, brother, but I think the emotional blackmail is happening through the UK to the US, because US is not giving them the time of the day anymore. So that's not, you know, that's going to be a little difficult to kind of pull off for the Pakistanis. Right, let's see. Okay, should we not retaliate by start trading with Iran? Why are we following the West sanctions, but the West keeps supporting Pakistan? Well, we are trading with Iran to a little extent, and I believe in the next some time, Amay, you will see some oil coming out. I will cover this. I am trying to dig into it. There is some stuff which is happening which we're not able to see out in the open, but let's wait. Let's wait. I know your emotion and I know where you're coming from. Let's just wait on this. I think I will have an answer within about a couple of days for you, right? But yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I'm not very happy with the factor that Pakistanis are getting helped at all. But I can understand why they're getting help, because they would have gone and said, "Boss, this is it." Up now, the nuclear blackmail is implied, right? We are a nuclear hum kya atomy asase hai hamare paas. That's what they keep talking about. But see, understand one thing: the game is going to be now played between, as soon as the Russia Ukraine thing comes into some sort of a focus, some sort of a end game sort of a thing. And let me tell you, the murmurs coming out of the US establishment now is that yaar bas yaar band karo isko. They want to get back to China. And when they do get back to China, that I feel is going to be the time when Pakistan is going to face a lot of challenges. So they don't want to deal with Pakistan right now. So they're just kind of keeping it alive. And that's something that I think. I'm not very, very sure. Okay, you say tone down your army. It is not sustainable economically. It is a spiral trap. Maintaining such large army, you do less capex in return. Your competitive advantages reduce, so on and so forth. Yeah, ऐसा है. Why this is something which is known, brother. You can't. I mean, even if they tone down the army, they're not going to recover out of this. If somebody's going to tell me कि भाई, if they do these things and Pakistan will recover in 3 to 5 years, no ways. To come to what Pakistan was before they went into this trap, probably about 15, 20 years ago, they will take them about 30 to 35 years. Remember one thing, yeah, you're talking about not just the economy, you're talking about a mindset of the people who've gotten used to stealing, who've gotten used to this drama, this kachra which actually happens in their country. To change the mindset of a people, it takes a generation. It's not that simple. So yeah, they can do their reforms and stuff like that. How far will those reforms actually last? How far they will be able to actually sustain it is whole different question. The issue is, in India we need to look at it a little more objectively. As I said, keep that watch list ready of the things that I've told you, and if any of these things start moving in a particular direction, we'll be able to know why Pakistan was actually helped. I wanted to figure out what are the factors involved in this particular game. I've put them out for you. Let's observe further. And last one or two comments, looks like Eidi money from the IMF. This is also the way to placate Pakistan post Modi's successful visit to the US. Sir, I won't be surprised, because the State Department is not happy with the Defense Department winning that particular war at that time. Remember, there's a battle, and I've discussed this again in a lot of shows with regards to India US relationship, between the State Department and the Defense Department. In this particular battle with India, when India was involved, the Defense Department kind of won. But the war, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, is not over. The State Department is not going to roll over and die. There's going to be retaliations, there's going to be games, all that will happen. But please understand, this war is not over. Right, so we will have these games coming out. Remember the last time when they gave $500 million to the Pakistanis, Antony Blinken said this was to fight what? Terrorists. They gave $500 million to Pakistan to fix their F-16s to fight terrorists. Now this is amazing, right? So the State Department is, of course, behind this game. Okay, thank you so much, sir. That's a long name that you've got. How are you? I'm very well. UCC will be implemented. Who are India's true friends and true enemies? Do you think US deep state is honest with this intent with India? Sir, nobody's your friend. Nobody's your enemy. Everybody's there to deal with you, and you are there to deal with them. This whole business of saying, "Oh, wo mera bhai hai, wo mera dost hai," this is a Pakistani game. This is a Pakistani line of thought, and I'd really urge everybody to understand one thing: you stand alone in this world. People will stand next to you when they find some use that you can give them. Nobody's going to stand with you out of charity, right? If any country in the past helped you for certain reason, they helped you for their own purposes as well. So it's not like they say, oh, India is such a nice, I am very friendly. The dialogues given is saying, oh, India and Russia are very good friends. Oh, India and this is very good friends. Oh, India. Fair enough. That's something that we can accept. But please understand, we stand alone in this world. What we need to do within our country, what we need to think, and what we need to implement, with whether it be UCC or any other reform which is going to go forward, needs to be done on our own esteem. We can take the engine technology from the US, not to become dependent on them, but to develop our own technology. And that's something that I would put across very, very forcefully. Bhakti, thank you so much for acknowledging the fact of very true, Adi. We are alone. We need to understand this ASAP. That's been my motto for a long time. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me for this little update on Pakistan. Tonight at 10, we sit down and discuss with Air Marshal Bedi how do we boost the Indian Air Force? And that's a question which is a burning question every time we talk about the fighter squadrons, the production, and whole lot of other things. So let's discuss that tonight at 10. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. Jai Hind.